So this is How to Live an Awakened Life Workshop, Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018. So tonight's channel is, tonight you will be going into the nature of your visit here on Earth. And in 3 pages, we're not going to get that deep, but okay, so here it is. This is the wonderful channel that came through just for you guys. This is meant to be a visit of experience. Unlike other realities, this one is all about your senses, feelings, and emotions. It is all experience. You came to this. You came for this. For in all of this is the ability to create. If you remembered where you came from or why you came, literally, the innocence and beauty of the creative process would be negated. So you enter this realm through birth and exit through death, though you always were before and continue long after. These are the stories created to support the others immersed in the human experience. The system works beautifully, though many have lost their way. Even that does not undermine the exquisiteness and success of the reality. Losing your way creates more opportunity for expansion. It truly is a win-win system. The system has been manipulated by a few who have missed the bigger purpose in lieu of a false pretense of power. You needn't worry or consider any of these an obstacle or issue. The nature of this reality has stepped up to resolve this with the least resistance. Everyone gets a reality they want. And these who want to control and manipulate others to the advantage of themselves alone will have such a place which supports this illusion. And those of you who have felt or seen beyond the illusion of fear and control will find freedom. There is something for everyone. If you believe in a world of love, then yes, you will live in a world of love. And conversely, if you believe in a world of pain, fear, and anger, then these will be your world. It is so simple, yet many will claim victim even as they are solely responsible for the world they are in. This brings us completely back to the idea of Mystery School. Mystery School is a self-driven curriculum of coming back into your power and stepping fully into the calling you came to fulfill. Mystery School is an energy field existing all around us. It can be seen and accessed by those who are close enough in frequency to its own. As with all things you want, you must match the frequency of having it to see it or experience it. So the question then will be, how do I match the frequency of what I want? Feel it as though it is. Stop looking outside of you for the answers. They all are within you. You are infinite consciousness, and as you find your way into the co-creative process, manifesting a world of delight, you will begin to believe and own your divinity. Ask yourself, what would it take to blank? Find Mystery School, be in a world of love, feel effortless flow of abundance, anything. What do you want? Because Mystery School is a self-directed course, you are always aligning with it from within. You are always going to find exactly the guides, instruction, and classrooms which are perfectly suited to assist you in your next expansion. The school grows with you. It is limitless. As you become ready and request your next course of study, the classes are expertly aligned and created just for you. This school is a power tool for navigating through this reality. You didn't come here to retire. You came for the joy of expansion. Nestled deep in your genetic code is your purpose, your calling. It is the path of least resistance. So take notice the resistance you experience to note if you are on point with your purpose or pivoting away. Gratitude will light your way, and your emotions dictate your true north, the path to home. When your path to truth becomes more important than your identity, stories, and thoughts, you will have unrivaled success. Whoa. I know, right? Can I lay it on thick?
Can you read the last part over again?
Absolutely. You didn't come here to retire. You came for the joy of the expansion. Nestled deep in your genetic code is your purpose, your calling. It is the path of least resistance. So take notice the resistance you experience to note if you are on point with your purpose or pivoting away. Gratitude will light your way, and your emotions indicate your true north, the path to home. When your path to your truth becomes more important than your identity, stories, and thoughts, you will have unrivaled success. So this is really super duper exciting. I'm getting goosebumps everywhere. again, this idea of mystery school, and it's coming again. And I think this is really powerful because for each of you here, you have come so far along your own journey at this point. You've recognized you're manifesting in your life. You recognize that you're having expansion and or contraction, and you're taking ownership of that. So, no, you don't need to put it away right now. So, in this recognition, in this almost like a certain level of self-mastery at this point in your life, you can be more proactive. You can have more fun with this process. You can enjoy it a little more. You're not fighting what is so much anymore, because now you have this clarity to see, like, when something happens, you know how to step back and out of it. And even if you're not stepping out all the time, you still know you can, if you chose to, like, hunker down. Maybe you're, a lot of distractions. We have the power. We know that now. We know we have the power to change our experience, our environment, by changing our frequency. Whether we practice it or not, we know this. We've heard it, we feel it, we know it. If you're not owning it, it would be a good time to own it. And owning it when you begin, it's such a contrary concept to what we've been brought up in, that we have to play with the little things. We have to notice that we knew who was on the phone. That is a manifestation. That is an intuitive knowing. We have to notice that when we thought of something and someone said it. These are little manifestations. These are little things to take ownership of and say, like, rather than like, ooh, like, it's not ooh, it's coming from within, and we're on point with it. And as we take responsibility for these little moments, we can start to take ownership of the big ones. The big ones being where you're going to live, relationships, career, even to the point of we can take ownership of our environment in a sense that we can affect the expansiveness of the world. If we don't like what's happening in a rainforest, we can go within and affect it. If we don't like what's happening in politics, we can go within and change it. And how the change first occurs is always going to be with the idea of coming from the frequency of love, loving what is, and then through the eyes of loving what is, seeing that what it responds to, true north, our home path. Our home path is solely based on our ability to align with the frequency of the view we want. Deepak Chopra wrote a book called, just a second. It will come to me. But it was like this book that was solely based on the fact that the frequency that which you're at is the God you will know. It is the God you will know. So if you're in a frequency of anger or fear, you're going to know a God of anger. If you're in a frequency of love, you will know a God of love. And so it's a universal kind of like equation of sorts that just exists here. It's really a law. It's a law of physics of some sort, of quantum physics perhaps, that exists. It's scientifically proven in all sorts of ways, which I don't need to even go there because you can find it. But the fact is that the frequency that you choose is the frequency that you're going to inundate. And actually, I've seen this with Christina, I've seen it with other people where there's enough of a shift of frequency right around me, in my home, in my own being, from within. There's a shift of frequency that I can see the ripple happen, and I can see change like occur around me. And the change that's occurring around me is a change of perspective. It's a perception, change of perception. So because everything is built out of frequency, it can change that fast and that simple, because none of it is static. There is nothing static around us. Nothing is as firm as it seems to be. It is just built on frequency. And so as we choose and see, most people never change their frequency. They go through life in one frequency the entire time. So going through life in one frequency, of course, people are always treating you a certain way. Your environment always looks a certain way. You always have the same kind of job, the same kind of bosses, and the same kind of cars. They're always breaking down. You hear people and their transmissions are always going. Now, while that it could also be a message from the universe, to take responsibility of slowing down in life or something, it can clearly be, too, this frequency they're at is a frequency that does not conducive to healthy transmissions. It's just... So what do you see as a recurring pattern in your life and you don't like it? That's the frequency you want to shift in you. I can say, what do you want? And you can be like, well, no, I'm pretty happy. Excellent. So you don't have to go out and select a big dream. Because when people tell me, what's your dream? I get to tell you, I don't have one, because I am so okay and happy wherever I am. I can enjoy it. I can love it. I can be blissed out right now, right here. So why would I want a home in Malibu? Why would I want a boat? Why would I want these things? I can keep it fairly simple, because maybe my next dream is just in my next life. When Bella's grown up, I'd like an RV and I'd like to travel, and I'd like that to be effortless and profitable. So that could be my thought. But it's not anything stretching way out, because I can do it. I can do success. I can do abundance right here in this moment. And everyone has the ability to do that, because, again, it's frequency. Abundance is frequency. Success is frequency. Lack is frequency. Jealousy is frequency. $20,000 in your bank account is frequency. Negative is frequency. The idea of struggle is frequency. So it's really important. I say this every time I see you guys. You have to watch the language. The language tells your story. It is so indicative of who and what you are in this moment. Just in this moment. And that's the only moment that exists. And you can change it right now. You don't have to go into the future to change anything now. You just change it now, and it actually changes the past and the future. Own it now. Leave the guilt and the remorse and the shame out of the equation for anything that you don't like about yourself. And just choose another. Choose another frequency. This is as simple as going in a room and turning on a light, and yet we've made it so much more difficult. We are so invested in the identity and the thoughts and the stories. And that's what it's saying here. Let me read that again. Where is it? So you enter this realm through birth, and wait, those are the stories. I know it's where I have a little word sticking out. Yeah, here it is. When your path to your truth becomes more important than your identity and thoughts and stories, you will have unrivaled success. This is key.
How do you mean I can change the past?
Well, because the only moment that exists is right now. All time. Time is really it's just an opportunity for us as human beings to make sense of our experience. So we create past, future, present. But the past is just as easily able to be molded as the future. And we think we can only mold the future. So if in this moment, Bella, you healed a relationship that was hurting you for a year or 6 months or a week, right? You in this moment allowed yourself to come into harmony with the fact that you can bring in the frequency of unconditional love and recognize there is nothing to forgive, all right? That this person or whatever experience is perfect just as it is. Then you undo all the pain that happened in the past week or however long it happened. And in undoing that pain, you have unconditional forgiveness. You felt it, didn't you?
Yeah, actually,
Oh, we don't need to hear the story, but thank you. You felt it. I'm really glad you felt it. All right, so I'm going to open it up because this is really special.
Can we be maintaining different frequencies at the same time? So,
No.
for example, in love relationships, everything's great in your life, but in a love relationship or whatever, it's not so great. So I'm just kind of wondering if there's different...
No, but you can change your frequency on a dime. You can.
Right.
You're not going to hold more than one thought at a time.
Yeah.
But if you are not, if you're lazy, because we know better. So at this point, there is a certain laziness to being really successful in a love relationship and in being really horrible in a money relationship. That would be like, why haven't you decided to apply what works here over here? And why have you not decided to, I mean, I'm not saying you literally, but look at the beliefs that are feeding this other, you know, where's that coming from? And I gotta tell you, it's not that unusual to not want to go into the beliefs, because the beliefs are part of the relationships you have with the people who gave you the beliefs. You share those.
Wait, say that again?
It's not unusual to not want to undo those beliefs, because those beliefs become integral elements of our relationships with the people who gave them to us. We join them and share with them their struggle, which gave us the beliefs, which we then adopted these beliefs. So it makes sense that you wouldn't want to release them, because then you would say, well, if I don't have this to share with my mom, then what would be there? But the reality is, and I've experienced this, that once you let go of illusion, what's left is love. Love is all there is. It's been bogged down with these different illusions, levels of stories of illusions. And what happens is we are brainwashed. We allow a brainwashing of sorts to occur that says this is all there is. And I think it comes back to the story of the ego, which the ego believes in separation. It believes that it will die when you come into oneness. That is the death of the ego. But what we want to just remind our ego, and this is great, is that ego, you're not going anywhere, because I, as a human in this reality, want you here so that you can continue to help me with the contrast to create that which has never been before. You are here to assimilate contrast. You're here to help me work through, or to find contrast, experience contrast, so I can create new. That is the job of the ego. It isn't what we've morphed it into, which is this antagonist, you know, this tug of war between good and evil. It isn't that. The ego is so special and valuable for the work it helps us doing. And I will remind you, the ego is there to say, I don't like this job. This job sucks. That's judgment. All judgment happens in ego. It doesn't happen in spirit, it happens in ego. But thank God we can say this job sucks. And we can say why it sucks, because then we can go, if I just had more free time, if I just could work less and make more, if I just had a nicer boss, if I just had someone who could understand me and get me. And then, because we had the ego engaged to help us to see the parts that just weren't working, now we're on to something. And now we can declare what we want, which is a necessity to manifesting. Declare what we want, engage mind to begin to seek out the opportunities and relationships that will support what we want, and then ourselves go within and raise the frequency to that which we want so we can receive it. Simple. I know, it's like simple. You know what it is? It's being what is it? Diligent. Just diligent to follow through. But the reasons we aren't diligent, I don't deserve it. The reason we aren't, I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. It's not my job. You know, this is too much work. It takes too much time. I'm too busy. We write stories to make that the last thing to do on our daily agenda, when in reality, it's the only thing to do. I'm going to say again, it's the only thing to do. Mesh your frequency to what you want. Know what you want. How many people are going through their entire day without a clue of declaring what they want? They don't even know what they want. And you know what they do? They base what they want on what they don't have. So everything is, oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so stressed out. I'm so anxious. There's too much going on. There's too many people bothering me. And they're getting a lot more of that because by default, they're declaring to the world, this is what I want. We have the opportunity every day we wake up to lay in bed and choose. Choose again. Choose the frequency that you want. Choose the thoughts you want to have. Choose the relationships you want to include that day. Choose the relationships and how you want them to go that day. We have all the power to create the lives we want. And all our life we've been giving it away. We were taught to give it away, first to our parents, then to our teachers, and then to our doctors, our ministers, our politicians, and the list goes on, our bosses. It was all a story. They don't get that. They don't get that power. No one gets that power. And just because you play small, it doesn't mean that you don't have your power. It just means that you're pretending. You're pretending you don't. You're pretending someone else does. But it's never true. It isn't. It just isn't. So it's only a matter of just deciding to stay in your body and address this experience, this moment, this world, this relationship, this thing I don't like. It's just, are you willing to just show up on purpose and not tune out the opportunity? And every single thing we call a problem, issue, becomes experience, opportunity when we raise our frequency. It's up to us to raise the frequency so we can see how that problem turns into opportunity. And every single one is. And every single problem that you walk through, that you raise your frequency to love, becomes a win-win for everyone. And it serves the highest potential of all. And through that, you will get these little nuggets, these amazing nuggets. They're almost like little gold coins that fall into your lap that say, oh my God, you're in such a good place. Here's an idea. Here's an opportunity. Here's a new person. Here's money. Here's a great car. It just falls into your lap. So it's up to us to just decide to show up on purpose when we wake up and make a little declaration and then honor our journey that day. If we see things we like, own it. If we see things we don't like, own it. And that's the beauty of it. If you own the things you don't like rather than resist them, you immediately have an opportunity to turn that around into something that's going to serve you. This is a lot of big stuff this week. We're on the mega trip. All right, so is everyone on point? Getting it? Okay, cool. Does anyone want to share anything that's going on? Oh, Bella, go ahead.
Well, it's not really going on, but it was a memory. And it made me really, that I used to love to sing in front of people.
Yes.
I'm so proud of my voice. But when then I asked my friends at school, to want to hear my voice. Then I said yes, and then I sang, and then they plugged their ears and said la 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 whenever I sang.
Yep.
And then they said it was too loud, and I lowered my voice to la la la. And then I did it again.
Yeah.
And really, when my feelings that I was really scared to sing in front of anyone.
Okay, and I know you've done work on that, but can we just look at this really quick? Your singing, Bella, is intuitive, and your singing is light singing. We know that, right? So that's really high frequency. So isn't it possible that the kids in your school were a little bit too distant from that frequency of love that they couldn't listen to it? And then, instead of them joining you, you felt bad and you joined them in their frequency.
But honestly, I thought they were having a fun time because they were talking.
But that's because they're used to being in that frequency, and they make it look like it's good, but honestly, could someone who was feeling really good and being in love do that to another person? No. And I'm telling you, they were doing the best they could, but they're not used to the high frequencies. And when I'm around people who aren't used to high frequencies, they will get mad at me, and sometimes they have to leave.
But I really have no idea how they all decided to sing Nene.
It's like a sheep mentality. They were all in a similar frequency, and they all just did the similar thing.
But I mean, how they even figure it out? They didn't whisper or anything.
I know, right?
It's impossible.
It's because at that frequency, they were all kind of having that same reaction. And probably as soon as one person did it, they all just joined.
No, they did it at the same time.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it's a frequency thing. That would be a frequency thing. The fact that they were all kind of being subtly.
Not very mean.
Okay.
They plugged through those clothes on and said, nah, nah, nah.
Bella, I hear you. But you get it, right? The big picture is this is your opportunity to witness how the world is operating and to own your power rather than hold space where you're at, rather than joining people in their lower frequency. You're not giving anyone the opportunity to maybe expand out of such a low frequency. And by joining them, you didn't feel good, right? So I don't think that's your space to be in.
And I joined them for 2 years. I was in first grade.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're back. Welcome. 2 years, Bella. Woohoo! You're back.
Well, only when I'm saying eye contact.
Oh, okay. And that's kind of what Dina was talking about, right? How you can, some things go into low frequency and some things you do really well in high frequency.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Let me ask you a question about frequency and people. So for example, there are certain people in my life that will trigger me to go into an old pattern, a low frequency. So for example, if I have a friend that lives out of state and I don't see them for years and they come back around, I immediately revert back into whatever frequency that was. Like, oh my God, it's 2002, and I feel that same way.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Well,
Like
in our
it's a
lives,
trigger, like I guess the memory of that person is a trigger, you know?
yeah, I get that. Okay, so what's happening is that in our lives, we've had, you were a teenager for many years, you know, then you were a mommy for many years. Okay, so during these different stages of our lives, because we weren't on point with our expansion, right? We were kind of just like playing the human game, right? Just kind of following the bouncing balls around us in a way, right? Of whatever. We would get into things unlike we do today. Like we'd get into something, say, fear or anger or stress, or there's a frequency, and I'm not saying it's those words, but say with a friend, say you had a frequency of sublimation or something, or giving your power away. And today you're not that person, but you spent 4 years following around certain friends through high school. And I'm not saying you did this, but I'm just, for instance, if you were giving your power away by being the friend who just goes along with things in high school, and you did that for 4 years, it has a very powerful momentum. You've established it, you watered it, you nurtured it, you catered to it. Didn't matter what anyone said, you're like, no, I love this plant and I'm gonna make it thrive. And so when you did step out, because you were able to come, you know, through your experience, you're able to expand out of it. That person, because they didn't go on the journey with you, they might even still be in that frequency.
Yes.
Because some, you know, as that guy said, and I can't remember his name, oh my God, I gotta write it down next time, but this guy wrote this book, and in that book he established a frequency chart, and he said less than 5, okay, so he said the majority of people will never move more than 5 points on a 1,000-point frequency chart. That means the majority of people are just here having a life. They're just here going to school, getting a job, having a family, retiring and dying. They're just here doing that. They're not in some sort of like, they're not seeing this opportunities for expansion. They're not seeing opportunities to grow from within. It's really an interacting with the outside world, but we all are manifesting all the time. So these people are manifesting their lives, but because they're not taking ownership of their ability to affect the world around them, they're in a loop. They're in that rat wheel of, this is what the world's giving me, so that's what I am. This is what the world's giving me, so this is who I am. This is what the world's giving me, so this is what I can do. And they're in kind of like a rut in a way. So if this person coming back into your life is bringing in that powerful, strong base momentum that you had participated in, it's kind of like going to be, in some ways, more strong.
Yeah, because they've been practicing it for like,
you have been there, so you remember it. It's like really, it can be a powerful time. And that may be a stronger momentum than the new momentums that you have. So it would possibly make sense. So then you would just have to, again, just like I was saying earlier, because you notice it, if this person comes to town, you would challenge yourself before they got here and start to say things like, what would it take to be me? What would it take to stay in my frequency of joy. What would it take for me to go out with them? And you might suddenly notice that you're getting some input, like maybe you only have a 2-hour visit, not a 5-hour visit. Maybe you notice after 4 hours is when you drop the ball. You know, or maybe you get the idea that you just have to make a declaration about who you are, you know, and how your life changed. Or maybe it's the activities you're choosing to do. It's just one of those things. But when we, instead of going, phew, she's gone, I don't have to worry about it for another year. And then, she's coming.
Right. It's opportunity, you know, yes.
Yeah, so, I would see it as this amazing opportunity and address it within the month before. Start to play with the possibility of it. It's kind of like, go ahead.
Christine, I also wonder if part of you either knows or is afraid of that unless you go back into that mode, you won't have a connection. You won't have anything to talk about. Like, it's gonna sever right there, which
Yes.
might be true or not. But like that's the thought process that just takes you like, well, this is safe,
Mm-hmm.
and it snaps you in.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. Both resonating. Thank you.
Very good. But it gives you something to play with, right?
Yeah.
I think it also sometimes people surprise you, right? And the other person maybe has changed in ways that you don't know yet and you're not aware of. So opening up the conversation of like, hey, this is how I've changed and the way my perception has changed in the last few years. How have you changed? You know, what's up with you? And they can surprise you. Maybe like
Yes.
maybe on the outside they look the same, they're still wearing the same 90s clothes, but like maybe you know, something strong happened in their life, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you're both being dragged into that frequency. Neither of you enjoying it.
What's that?
And you're actually both
Yes.
being dragged into that frequency. Neither of you
Both
actually
like,
wanted to do
okay,
that.
then we meet there anyway.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. Yeah. Totally. Thank you.
It's awesome.
Gemma, but I would,
Yep.
I would like to kind of stay on the same topic because it's coming
Yeah,
up
go
for
right
me
ahead.
this week as well. It is very difficult to prevent other people. At least for me, all of a sudden
Yep.
right now, it's very difficult for me to prevent either other people from triggering me, or what happens more often is that as I see people behaving in a way that's either not beneficial for me, or what's much harder, not beneficial for my children, teachers, coaches, I just get so angry. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, but why aren't you listening? And I seem to be running this loop for the last month since the school started,
Yeah.
and I can't see a healthy approach to it.
Okay. So, don't do this here, sweetie.
Okay.
You can read in the spa room, okay? So, I can feel that really strongly, and there's an element of control that's coming in. So, okay, and then if we come back to the idea of loving what is, because when we love what is, and when we bring gratitude in for what is working, we can see through the illusion. The illusion being this person's aggressive, attacking, taking, not listening, whatever. We start to see through it, and it changes our interaction in such a way that rather than there being a win-lose kind of mentality, there becomes a win-win mentality. And I've seen this shift things amazing, because win-win is really unconditional love. It's like, how can I within this relationship serve the highest good of all? And in some cases it might be your son quitting a team, or maybe it's sometimes when I work with Bella, we have to just acknowledge that others are doing the best they can, and it may not be the way we would do it, but we can respect that they're doing the best they can. And from there it's so much easier not to take it personally.
Yeah, so I know I have my part in this, and I don't want, I'm coaching
Yeah.
the kids. That's my concern, and so it's at least I need to stay level.
Yeah, so you have to bring in forgiveness too for that. So you have to say that I'm doing the best I can do. And even though I lost my whatever and I yelled at this person, I know I'm doing the best I can. I'm honoring that. I forgive myself, you know.
So forgiveness. Yeah,
Forgiveness is
that makes
huge.
sense.
And there's another thing, especially if you're feeling like you're the one that's kind of like up and down dropping a ball, right? The faster and the sooner that we take ownership for our own faults, so to speak, make amends, you know, do the forgiveness work. I want to be, and I do my best to be so quick if I screw up and accuse someone of something or overreact, to go up and apologize like within the next moment possible, you know, the very next moment possible. And I find it feels so much better. And that totally falls under that thing of when the path to your truth becomes more important than your identity, stories, and thoughts. That's what that is. And that's why I have to go and make it. As soon as I recognize how I steered wrong, you know, how I overreacted, how I came out of anger, fear, control, I have to clear that energy. And that clearing that energy is almost like erasing karma. You know, it's just going in and bringing in the love. And you know what? I have to do it. And it's not for the other person. It's for me. I have to do it for me. And at that point, it's like, it's okay if the other person doesn't get it. I mean, you want them to get it. You're giving them this gift. But it's my clearing this energy. It doesn't matter if they forgive me. It doesn't matter if they say it's okay. They don't have to do any of that. I just have to be in integrity with myself and know that I'm doing the best I can. And that might include, you know, apologizing. And I'll tell you, there are times in my life where apologizing was something I did in a letter on paper that maybe I didn't deliver, because there's some relationships that are there to teach us about forgiveness, but it's not necessarily going to be appropriate to like it's like putting your hand in a shark's mouth to say, I'm really sorry that I, you know, whatever. It's like, no, you know where the boundaries are when we're being, taking ownership of our faults or whatever, of our miss things that we do. In that clarity of loving ourselves unconditionally, we'll know the behavior, we'll know the action to take. Yeah.
Can I share a couple things?
Please.
I have had so much anger in the last couple of months. I'm dealing with certain issues with my family, and it was so hard, first of all, for me to get to the point to allow myself to be angry. And then once it showed up, it was like, holy cow, this is all-consuming rage, right? And then I realized that I kind of liked it there because it was the only way I could feel powerful in that situation, and I felt really powerless, and I felt victimized. So when I realized how much that was hurting me and just exhausting me and using up all of my energy just to be angry all the time, it wasn't very useful, it wasn't helpful, it wasn't really affecting anybody else, it was just burning away at me. And that's not sustainable. It wasn't helpful. It didn't add to my power at all, right? So I was like, what do you do with that? And there was two things that were super helpful for me because part of me still didn't want to let it go, right? So I was like, you did things, I don't want to forgive you, how do I shift out of that? The first thing I did was the Hawaiian thing, and I can't remember its name.
Yeah. Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So I just imagine the person in front of me and say the words, even if I didn't feel it, just say the stupid words. I'm sorry. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I said it, and I practiced it, and I just trusted that it would work, even if I was still burning with anger. I wanted to throw rocks at these people. The second thing I did was visualization where I imagined the person as they would be as a child. And I imagine them as a child because I know that for me, when I'm doing work with my inner child or my heart, like imagining myself as a child makes it really easy for me to be compassionate and loving towards myself. So I turned the other people that I was angry at and the children to their child form, and it was so much easier to just hold them and love them and forgive them just in my imagination. And that kind of took the edge off. It's the first thing that really took the edge off of all that rage inside of me. because I really did feel it for them. I could have compassion for them in that state. And I just try to remember that that's actually who we all are inside. It's just a little kid. You know?
That's a powerful tool. Thank you so much.
Yep.
That's amazing. Yeah, because we acquire those hearts as children and we keep acting them out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Joanne, you had this look on your face. Do you know what the Ho'oponopono thing is?
No.
Okay, that I caught that from you. So
Yeah, I was like, I'm
Um,
listening.
it's
I
a
looked
four.
it up.
It's like a
That's what I was
four.
thinking.
It's a 4 affirmation kind of chant that you can do. So it's please forgive me, or I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, and we can say
What is
this.
it called again?
Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian forgiveness prayer of sorts.
Yeah, look it up.
Yeah, yeah. I say Ho'oponopono. It might have a couple more onos.
That's right.
Ho'oponopono.
What?
Ho'oponopono.
There you go. See, I knew it had
Can you
more in
spell
it. If you
Right.
put if you put Ho'oponopono prayer in a computer, it will correct
It'll
you.
come up and find out what it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's a whole philosophy, but that's like the
Yeah.
best known piece.
Yeah,
of
it's
it,
a
that's
really
there.
powerful piece. Yeah. Yep. Was there anything else you didn't get, Joanne?
No, I was just trying to listen to the voice.
Oh, okay.
I was like, trying to.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
And today, that's kind of where I'm like.
Yeah,
I'm listening. I'm
You're
like,
like-
deeply listening.
Yes, you are. I love it. I love it. Oh, this is so great. It's so great having like new blood. Bring a new experience, and I love this. This is fantastic. All right, so anyone else? Like, where are you guys at? Okay.
So I almost didn't come at like 6:36 because I was like, I was like, I've been traveling
Mhm.
and for work, and I'm totally exhausted. Even I walked in today, and my administrator was like, "We need to talk about your work schedule." I was like, and she was being caring. She's very caring. She's trying to tell. She's that was
Yeah.
her. You need to stop, and
Yeah.
you need to take some time off. I said, "Oh yes, I know. Thanks."
Aw.
Maybe in a couple weeks. So I took out my pendulum. I was
Oh, good for
I
you.
was just like, and it just occurred to me, I'm like, oh, I can have someone else help me with this. Because I really was like, maybe I shouldn't go, maybe I should go, maybe I should go. Anyway, so I'm glad I came, but I'm like in this kind of deep listening.
Uh-huh.
But I'm reading this. I'm reading. It's in quotes because I listen to my books.
Uh-huh.
And it's this book about this girl who basically is brought up in the Idaho hills, mountains, and is abused in all kinds of ways, and just kind of a cultish upbringing.
Yep.
And I'm at this point in the book where she's trying to enter college. She's entered college,
Mhm.
but all of that old stuff, like all the old stories, the pretty horrible things her dad like taught her, are all coming out. And she's talking to herself like, it's my dad's voice. It's becoming my voice. And you talking about the patterns
Mhm.
made me start thinking about kind of looking at what patterns and what's recurring.
Yeah.
And actually right now, it's kind of funny that I thought about the book, because right now, my recurring pattern that kind of brings my frequency down is avoidance. And so right now, I've been binge reading, and again, I listen to my books. I've been binge reading for like, a couple of months now. And also I can't stay there for hours, but like in all my spare time, I'm either listening to the book, or if I have time, I'm like watching my Netflix thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm squeezing it in when I'm whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, what am I avoiding? So I'm not really sure what I'm avoiding, but I'm avoiding something, and which is why I'm feeling so
Yeah.
drained and exhausted. Even though I'm meditating every day, but it's more like,
So there's a
I
root,
have to do it.
Joanne, there's a root. The root is somewhere in old patterns of not deserving, because what you're avoiding is balance. You're avoiding balance. So balance is that effortless way of like having a nap or recognizing what our body needs rather than just
The nap I
remember.
avoided yesterday, even though I had time.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Same thing.
Yeah, I did it yesterday.
What were
I
we gonna
spoke
say?
about it today.
No, I do the same thing.
Oh, you do the same thing? Yeah, so we
Yeah,
all
me
have
too.
been there.
And
We've
it just
all
blew
been
my
there.
mind because I tend to I will read like spiritual based books. And I use my intuition as guidance. Like, okay, there's a lesson in here for me, or like I'm being guided for this for whatever the next thing is that I'm doing. You know, all of this. But I'm like, holy shit, is that avoidance? And I'm like dressing it up in like it's a spiritual thing. It's, you know, and I'm like,
It's a book, you know. Yeah, that's what I do.
But balance, do you see how
Yeah.
do you see how you can have like 30 spiritual like opportunities, right? And balance. And it's like balance. It's like where do we put the balance at? We have work, we have family, we have our passions, which spiritual like education can come under that, or self-education through books can come under that. But it's just balance. It's remember the ebb and flow. And when we keep pushing, it's almost like we're denying what our body's asking for. You know, like you said, you use your pendulum. And we talked about using a pendulum to find out what's on point with our body, because we can have 10 good choices, healthy choices, like this: eating this food would be healthy, reading this book would be healthy, going for a walk would be healthy, taking a bath would be healthy. But there's really one sweet spot that fits vibrationally in that moment right then, you know? So yeah.
Higher vibrations can be so uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
And I think like we avoid them because they're not comfortable yet, and we're so addicted to the old stories and the old habits and the old imbalance, and if we've been using force for our entire life to run our lives,
Yeah.
balance feels really uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it's scary.
So then we have to reprogram ourselves. I deserve to have balance. I'm worthy of having a balanced life. Balance is okay. And you've got to recognize too, if you're hearing an inner voice that says that balance is being lazy. Balance is not productivity. Balance is not success.
Yeah.
Like what is the story and where is the resistance to that balance? And what if the story is I just don't have time for it? Because I've heard people say, when I would say, you have to do you, they would say, you don't get it. I have kids. I have kids. There's no time for me. And then they're really serious about that. Bill, are you okay? I know. It's just still rubbing it. So, and this person still struggles with this battle, after years, but much closer to recognizing that she's been fighting it, and that the reality is time to love herself. So sometimes in choosing spiritual books in excess over balance and caring for ourselves, we're actually negating the idea of unconditionally loving ourselves and dressing them.
They're just bestsellers. Not even
I'm just
spiritual.
saying in general. But it's
just randomly-
just
it's just like,
bestsellers.
it totally surprised me that I just got up from the table and I walked to my altar and I picked up my pendulum and I was like, oh, here I am walking. I'm like, I need to get the pendulum. Oh, look, the pendulum. And I was like, I'm just
whatever
this
it takes. That is
Surprised
super
myself.
cool. But it's really cool, and that was how you made the decision to come. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't it great when we can sometimes use our higher selves
Yeah.
to give us that nudge we need to do the right thing in that
Yeah,
moment
that's
for
what
ourselves?
I
Yeah.
needed to know.
Needed a nudge.
I need help. Help me.
Oh, sweetie, seriously, holy cow. Okie dokie. Oh,
I think there's also an element to embracing like the chaos that comes before, whether it's your vibration being raised or breaking through to a new ceiling, a new high, or whatever. But if you embrace the chaos, because I think sometimes you get caught in that element of fear. There's this bottling of energy before you bust into the next. And you get caught up in that, and I think that in itself can lower your vibration because you start fearing, So there's this
That's not uncomfortable.
embracing that because you know that you're breaking through to something.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
never thought of it that way, but I
Yeah.
recognize
Well,
it immediately.
and maybe we would call it the fear of the unknown, like
Yes,
rather than the
Yes.
fear of breaking through, because we
Right.
know breakthroughs are awesome.
and it's uncomfortable because you don't know what it is.
You don't know.
But
Yeah.
you also, like, my fear is usually I know somewhere deep inside I'll have to let some things go. And oh my God, once you are through and you go, oh, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it's
Yeah.
like, that's it, I'm gonna die alone right now.
Yep.
That's so it.
That is it. Well, I think a good reminder, every one of you have had so many breakthroughs at this point and expansions, but to just really get into gratitude for those expansions and recognize that start to create a new mantra like expansion's awesome. I love expansion. I never know what I'm going to get, but it's always awesome. And of course I don't want to bring in my old baggage to my new expansion, whatever that low stuff is that just can't fit through the door with me. It's totally okay. I don't mind leaving it behind. Start to have these like stories so that when you get the resistance, go, oh yeah, I know what that resistance is. I mean, now we're talking about it. What do they call it? The lid's off the pot. We can see what's there. So you can say, silly me. I'm okay. I'll be okay without whatever that is. And for me, I've told you guys, it might be like a room that needs to be cleaned or decluttered. It might be a fridge. It might be an area of the yard that needs attention. It might be a relationship it's time to let go of. But again, let me read that very, very last line, shall we? When your path to your truth becomes more important than your identity, stories, and thoughts, you will have unrivaled success.
That's exactly that way through the chaos, because you go, I'm going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I am going.
This truth
Yes.
is more important than the stories that I want to keep alive, the thoughts that I'm holding on to, or the identity I claim. I mean, it's just, that's what I was telling you guys when I changed my name. I became kind of like no name. Literally, because I had no attachment. It's not like I picked my grandmother's name. I had no attachment to that name. But then I no longer had the other name, which I did have attachment to at one point. And I felt like now I had no name. It was the weirdest experience. So therein, like, just drifted away that little identity piece. Yeah, identity with name. And then there's identity, with body. There's identity with, with relationship, with past, Yeah, so lots of stuff that, but are you guys feeling that it's all juicy?
I think it can be, but I feel like there's even in expansion, because it's scary, you can lose a sense of your power. And we've all been through so many breakthroughs so many times, but I feel like every time I go through one, I forget that I chose that. And it's like going to the dentist.
Okay.
And I chose to go to the dentist. I want the clean teeth. But once you sit in that chair, fuck that. Are you kidding me? And you're just you're terrified, and there's things coming at you, and it's just horrible. And you're like, why? And you feel out of control. And I think it's hard. It's super important to remember during expansion that you're in control.
Absolutely.
Your higher self chose this, and you can take it step by step in your own way. You can do it gently.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Because I forget that every time, and it's just like.
And then you're like
scary,
barreling like a out of control roller coaster.
Why higher self? Yeah, and it's just. I chose this. I want this.
Yep.
And it's worth it.
I might take it a step further for you, and I might say that it wasn't your higher self that implemented that expansion, because the higher self's already expanded, fully expanded. It was you co-creating. It was you waking up. It's part of the waking up process of realigning with higher self, step by step. That is the expansion. So it's actually purely your willingness to wake up that allows for the expansion. Higher self's already fully expanded.
Okay.
Fully expanded. So we're just rejoining. And in that process of rejoining, it's just like pure ecstasy, right? It's just like, woohoo! One more. But you're right. It's like if we are not on point with how we did it on purpose, we can feel out of control with it.
Yeah.
And the reality is that there were beautiful steps taken. And when you can see exactly how and what you did, you'll know. My most recent, I don't know if it was one of my recent expansions, I can't keep up with it. One of my recent expansions, I didn't even know happened until I changed this living room around. And after the living room shifted, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Because normally I have the expansion and then the house morphs afterwards. That's how it works. The house doesn't morph first and then I expand.
Right.
So I was caught in this dilemma where I saw, like, after the fact, the house, the living room just expanded. That means I expanded. And I was like catching up to realizing, because the expansions can be subtle, like what you said. They can be soft and gentle and subtle. They don't, I think what happens is when we're in very low frequencies, expansion of any sort is like, holy cow.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it was like 20 some years ago, reading A Course in Miracles, one paragraph blowing my mind because it lifted me right out of the box. It lifted me right into a higher expanded consciousness that I totally remembered. It was like totally ecstasy. Didn't know how I did it, didn't know how I got there, wanted to share it with everybody, but feeling very much like I want more of this, but I don't even know how it's happened. But it was reading up one sentence or one paragraph in the book. So when we're low frequency, a little shift is a major event. But as we continue to, and I can remember 20 years ago, and I would have like 1 or 2 major expansions a year. That was it. And I was having more than most people. But now it's like, okay, it's just like being with a great lover and you're experiencing orgasms like on a regular basis. It's just, that's basically what it is now. And rolling into another expansion. I don't think there's any limit to this. I really don't. I think it's just us fully coming into loving ourselves, and through that loving ourselves and loving ourselves unconditionally, recognizing the oneness. I mean, honestly, that's where we're all headed in this. And in that process, we're creators, and we're creating amazing yumminess for ourselves and sharing it with the world around us. So this is, but it all starts with loving self, and that's why I'm saying everything comes back to the only job you have to do is release the resistance, embrace loving what is, which includes you, and this within that is the equation for forgiveness and gratitude. They lie within that. I love how this says gratitude will light your way. So if you're feeling lost, you just come back to the gratitude. That's like the Ho'oponopono kind of thing, and thank you, and yeah.
I did have a question about the resistance thing, if you're ready to.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so we talk about resistance when we're moving out of our comfort zone, right? Like
Yep.
I'm feeling resistance to this, and because I know it's a challenge and it's something I'm afraid of, it's something I need to move past into this new space. New
Okay.
space is scary. There's resistance, right?
Okay.
On the other hand, we talk about the path of least resistance,
Yep.
which is our true north, right? They're using the same terms, which are totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have resistance on growth on one hand, and your true north being effortless and without resistance on the other.
Okay, so say that last part again. You can't have
You can't
resistance.
have resistance towards growth, right? And your growth is towards your true north.
Okay, so the
Right.
resistance isn't towards growth. The resistance is the hurdle on your path towards growth. Because the path of least resistance is truly us letting go of the beliefs, thoughts, and patterns which are holding us back to that true north. We use the excuse of I don't deserve, I'm not worthy. That's resistance. That if we try to go to true north through I don't deserve, we're hitting a wall, we're hitting resistance. So the path of least resistance would be I do deserve, I am worthy, I love myself, and that it's good, but there's going to be resistance. It's all, so it is a lot of words for the same thing. The path of least resistance ultimately is dropping the illusion so there is nothing to resist. The resistance is all the crap we put in our way. It's kind of like if you could imagine being barefoot, and then the goal is at the end, which is our truth. The goal is at the end of the sidewalk, and we're at this end. And along the way, we put a hurdle here for self-love. We put a hurdle here, you know, like we're not into self-love, we're into self-loathing. You know, we put these hurdles on the path. And for some people, it is just so crazy dense, right? That all they can see is that next one in front of them. And just to address that, to address that hurdle, it feels like, you know what I mean? It feels, and therein is the resistance. But the path of least resistance would be to recognize that it was all illusion, honestly. And then these just evaporate away. We don't have to hurdle. We don't have to leap over anything. It comes from this. Like, we have these really different ways that we can do things. So, what might be happening here with the language, and I'm not stepping back to examine it really closely, but what might be happening is that when we raise our frequency, that is the path of least resistance, because the hurdles don't exist in higher frequency. The hurdle for self-loathing exists in fear and shame. It does not exist in love. So if we're able to raise our frequency, and that's the journey within, going, you know, before the story. If we go before the story, we can allow these to just not exist. The frequency for a crappy boss does not exist in love. It just doesn't. The frequency for a broke down car does not exist in joy. Yep.
Can I take this one because I think
Go right ahead. It might be, yeah.
because I'm right now kind of doing both. So when I hit the wall, when I hit the resistance, right, and that maybe, you know, my son's childhood stuff comes out, or now I am still, some of the time, I'm gonna wade through this, and it's gonna be the whole works. It's gonna be the body reaction and the emotional cascades, and, you know, having to power through it, and I'll break through and I'll feel wonderful, and it's fine. It's still my path to do this. But now that I've been kind of learning from Gemma for the last 6 months or so, there is another way that's available, where sometimes I hit resistance and I go, oh, but my father, he's just doing the best he can. I don't need to worry about it. And then it's just like, it's gone. It's like I sidestepped it. It's just completely not there. And right now I'm at the point where I recognize that I could have taken another path. I can see how I would have walked through it with all the angst that I did, you know, half a year working through a different relationship. But all of a sudden it's like a light bubble goes and you just go, you know what? No. Like, it's just okay. There's nothing here for me to fight. And you sidestep it and you move. It's a skill like any other. And for me right now, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes I do it the hard way. But so in that sense, yes, it is the same resistance. It's just that least resistance is not avoiding it. You're just dissolving it. You're just looking at it and it goes like, not there at all. And I know it sounds really crazy until the first time that it happens. And
No,
then
it's
it's
not.
beautiful.
It's not that I haven't had experience with this before. It's just that I find that it's confusing
Yep.
that we talk about things like the discomfort of being in a new vibration, and at the same time we're calling that effortless.
Well, I don't have discomfort going to new vibrations.
But a lot of people,
Yeah, a lot of people do. Hence that therein lies like that duality.
right?
You don't have to have discomfort, and I could have discomfort. You know, like, so it is a duality, and maybe it's within the duality, and maybe the duality has to do with there's many ways to do the same thing.
Right.
You know, like, and it's just
Right.
frequency choice even. You know, like,
It's the choice in how you want to experience it. And
Right.
and we don't
yeah.
realize there's, you know, and I think that's it. I think
It
you
is.
nailed it. It
Yeah.
is the choice in how you want to do it. And if you believe that going into like awakening and expansion is going to be a lot of work, it's going to be a hard journey, then you can have that. And that's what this said in the reading tonight. You get to have the world you want. And I went through probably 20 years of it being a very difficult ride. And then I kind of hit this plateau where I just said no more. You know, like, no more. I'm doing this on purpose, and I can believe that it can be effortless. I can choose it to be effortless. And since I've made that choice, yeah, I've had some setbacks, and I have specific people who can trigger me to go into places where it's flat out fear, right? But fortunately, I've set up at this point a support system for that. So when I encounter it, I can take a step back, tap into my support system, and get back into my path of least resistance. Because if I engaged that person in that trigger, it would be the path of resistance. Again, like she said, I could walk through it head on in that resistance, or I can choose to tap into my support group, re-enter the frequency that I mostly live at, rather than that one I chose to pull down into. Re-enter that one and then walk through it a different way. And what's really beautiful is I've experienced this. I've experienced it with, and it's like really amazing, because I'll want to blast back. I can feel the mother hen in me like, and just really want to blast back. But then I'll step back, recognize we're all doing the best we can, and I'll find this inner strength to answer in a way that is just loving. And then it dissolves it all. Like all that weird heating up or pushing buttons, because our closest people know how to push our buttons. It's just gone. And then, I mean, Christina's witnessed a lot of it, because I share it with her up front, and then I'll be like, oh my gosh, listen to what the response was. This is amazing. This is so beautiful. This is him really trying to be the best person he can be after I am able, in that choice of not reacting to his poking and choosing to take a step back and just let it be. However I do that, sometimes I don't respond at all, and sometimes I respond in a loving way, like whatever you decide, that will be best, whatever. I will clearly, in that moment that I've chosen to let go of my resistance, which is my reaction, all of a sudden I'll see that he's reacting through fear and pain. I can see it so clearly, and that's that inner child you're talking about. And then once I honor him as a human, right, by saying whatever you want to do, whatever's best, we can do it your way or whatever, then he steps up and really does the beautiful thing. Whatever that beautiful thing was, he honors the beautiful thing, because it's all about her, right? And he does honor that. So that's like, again, we have different ways we can go at it, and it's our choice. And I think it really is a choice of choosing to go through the lower frequencies or choosing the higher frequencies. And the choice, let's just say this, there's no wrong choice. There's a choice where we come through love, or there's a choice we come through fear. But there's no wrong choice. We're not going to make a judgment that this is the way you should go and this is the way you shouldn't, because every choice allows for opportunity and personal growth. Every choice allows for that. And in some cases, you're going to have your greater expansion, and this was said here tonight, the greater expansion can come through that other, that we would judge as, oh, not the way you should do it. You needn't worry, consider any of the obstacle or issue. Okay, wait, if that was it. And those of you who have left or felt beyond illusion, just a second. Because there was a part where it said some will go through it in a way. Well, this happens every time. It's like really big and light in my head, and then I go to find it and I can't find it. But it was just, it was saying that you need, okay, maybe that was it. You needn't worry, no. Everyone gets to do it their way. Everyone gets to do it their way. And it did say it, and now I don't see it. It did say that you, in choosing to go through it in a way that seems adverse, right? It seems fear-based. You still get to have, there is opportunity for great expansion from that. Even greater expansion in some ways. Let me see if I can find it. No, I bet it's up here. Nope. It's so weird how it just like poof. Tess is already done. There's not one time hardly where I've actually been able to go back and find the exact paragraph, except unless it's the last paragraph, right? So yeah, but this is such a magical time.
I could say, like, in what we're speaking about right now, that I just realized that I put that there. I totally put that, like, the struggle or the discomfort in the vibration, like when you're shifting vibration or whatever you want to call it, frequency. I put that discomfort there, or that feeling of whatever, because I want to better appreciate when I get there. So I put myself through all these circles and cycles of things Like, I don't like it. It feels this way, whatever. So then when I get there, I'm like, oh my god, this feels so good. So there's there's an element of adding that, so it tastes that much better when you get there.
Have you tried it without it?
I have not.
Because I gotta tell you,
Is
you
it
see,
better?
but you see me all the time.
I do.
You see me all the time.
But I feel what you feel, so I
But
don't.
you see me like vibrating
I
with it.
do.
I know. So
So is that what I'm missing out? Okay, all right.
I don't know if you're missing out,
Okay,
but I
no,
want to say
yes.
maybe it's just as good without this,
Okay. Yeah.
without making it like work.
Yeah.
Miss out on it once. If you don't like it, you can
Yeah,
always
there
go
you
back.
I mean, I'm consciously aware of it, so I'll be like, no.
Does that feeling come from like a desire to want to earn something for yourself instead of being given something?
Yes. Yes.
I totally get. I feel
Yes.
that. I completely feel that. I'm like, I don't want to win the lottery. I want to earn my money.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I want like millions of dollars. I a cat gives it to me.
I know, but these are the
that
stories.
feeling
Yeah.
of like it's only mine if I earn
If you
it.
earn it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think maybe it's control thing. I don't know, but I totally get that feeling.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I feel the same way.
I'm curious if there's a mindset in there about having to work hard. You know, like
or
Because-
Yeah.
independence. Because if it's given to you, you're beholden to someone.
Yeah,
Yes.
or you've experienced
Yeah.
gifts that have strings attached.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But maybe it's time to let go of those ideas. Maybe there are no strings attached to anything ever. Maybe, maybe there aren't. Maybe we can just be in a state of flow with all people and know that there's always there's always people giving to me. You would not believe how many people bring me home gifts. They come to visit for the first time, they bring me gifts, and I'm like, and then I'm okay with it. At first I'm perplexed. I'm like, am I supposed to have a gift? Like, am I supposed to give a gift? And I don't know, but then I just shrug it off, the idea, because I end up with this little thought bebopping around, and I just shrug it off and go into gratitude and thank you so much for these gifts, and this is wonderful, and I'm so grateful, and I know that I do give the gifts, but they might be to someone else. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that when we're in that kind of like that unconditional love world where we do have those kind of people giving, they're not giving us for something back. They're giving out of appreciation and out of love. They don't expect anything back. And I think they feel just as enriched by the fact that we're passing it on, passing it forward or something. It just all comes back it all comes full circle all the time, right? Mm-hmm. It always is. And we get to, it's like this. Someone said once, if you had $1 million and you gave 1 million people $1, it wouldn't do as much good as if you gave one person $1 million. Do you get that?
I've seen the concept. I don't know if it's actually statistically true.
Well, think about it. If I gave you $1, whoopee. If I gave you all $1, whoopee. But if I gave you $5, you might be able to actually do something with it. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the concept, and I think that's where ultimately, let's just go back to the. You haven't heard me say this yet, but the ultimate is the fact that all you have to do is love yourself. And you build that up into unconditional love, and it flows out to the entire world as unconditional love to all, not just to you or just to you and not you, but everyone gets it, whether or not it's showing up as a gift, or it's showing up as energy, or it's showing up as a hello, or it's showing up as a bed to sleep in. It doesn't matter.
I know this is not correct, but for shits and giggles, what if you applied that love thing how you did to just money? And what if you gave one person that complete unconditional, what would that do? I don't know.
Say that again.
Just out of curiosity, if you're saying you give $1 to everybody, but if you gave her $5, it would mean more to her.
Okay.
What if you gave that one person that unconditional
You
love?
are the one person. That's the point. And yes, you're right. And that's how we got back there. You are the one person.
Yeah.
And then everyone wins.
Mm-hmm.
But when we make her the one person or her the one person,
Yeah.
then not only do we lose, but the world loses out.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are the one person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it overflows. So it's really magical.
Mm.
And we get to be the magician, we get to be the sorceress, the fairy, the god, the, divinity. We forgot that, and especially as women. You know, especially as women, because as women, we were brought up being told to take care of everyone else. Okay, maybe some weren't, but I was. Do your mother,
Be small.
Be
Don't
small.
out and take care of everyone.
Yeah, and guess what? There was a little not said story. There was like a little suggestion in there that someone else would take care of you, but it never happened, and it never will, because it's no one else's job. It's so bizarre. How does this work? I have no idea how this works.
That's kind of like that play on words again. Like Sky was talking about, like resistance, and it's that play on words. Like if I don't know, something you just said triggered that in me, where it's like these implied things. Like I don't know, there's a play on words, so you don't completely get where you're trying to go. Like I don't.
Thank you, because I just realized that on some level I have that expectation of someone coming in and like taking care, and I get angry because why didn't you do that?
Yes.
And it kept showing up for the last like 5 months, and I keep looking at this irritation. But that's where it's coming from.
I can't believe that was such a simple truth that we said so many times that you weren't here for. I'm so glad you heard it, because it's a big root. And I remind friends who are 2s, helper people, the 2 in the Enneagram, if you're not familiar with that, and they're helper people. And what happens is an average 2 gets really invested in doing for others and then resenting the very people who are not doing for them. And I have friends who are familiar with the Enneagram who I will remind, you are seriously acting out a 2 behavior, and we don't need to judge it. We just need to recognize that that's what's going on. This isn't personal. You know, there's nothing I have to do for you. You know, it's like, you know, I'm a 2, and I got to say, an unhealthy 2 is your bestest friend ever, because they will do everything for you. But you don't want to be that 2.
No, you don't want to be that person either, because when that 2 gets angry,
that could be, yeah. I might
reach their cap. It's it's over. Even if they said it was okay that they were giving,
it's true.
it's not okay. It is not. And you have to say no. That's not.
There you go.
That's me.
There you go. When enough is enough. Yeah. So we all just have to okay. So if all you walked away with tonight was the fact that you must love yourself. Loving yourself is the end all. Loving yourself is the key. It is the turnkey. It's the pivot point. If all you did was that, all these other things would fall into place. You would clear old beliefs automatically by loving yourself. You would spill out to the entire world. Things would not affect you if you were loving yourself, because it's in that expectation that someone act or do something they're not doing. But if we're loving ourselves, we put no expectation on others, because we're doing us. You know, oh, you should be treating me kinder, but I'm already treating me kind, so you're okay where you're at. You know, you should be cleaning the trash out. Well, maybe I should be cleaning the trash out, because I really want to see a sparkly can. You know, like, it's just the weirdest thing. We end up owning it. I'll repeat that little Byron Katie story when someone asked her after she awakened, did you have a religion before? And she said, yes, I did. My religion before I woke up was pick up your socks, pick up your socks, pick up your socks. So you have to ask yourself, what message were you giving yourself? What was the thing you chanted that you made your God? And then she said when she woke up, she no longer chanted, pick up your socks, pick up your socks. She picked them up, and when she picked them up, she felt the joy and love for every single person whose sock that was. And before you know it, there weren't any socks to pick up anymore. There just weren't. They just disappeared. And that's happened in my life before, where I've had resistance to something massively, and I'm like, ah! You know, and I'll of course, Christina will hear all about it. And then I'll find my way either like around or through it to release that frequency that matched with that thing, whatever it was, whether it was a roommate, a behavior, a certain like bill, whatever, you know, like how in the world is my electric bill this much every month, you know, like, and then I try to act outside of me to fix it, when in reality, isn't it the frequency within? So how do I get to the frequency within that is the electric bill amount that I want. You know, it's the same route every time. It's feeling the frequency of the bill you love. It is, and you know what's interesting? When I stopped fighting or trying to do outside of me to make things work better, I started to have little things drop in my lap. Little things, little answers. Like I have this bush out front that you guys have to walk around every time you come up the sidewalk. And I love this tree, and I've cut it once and I can't cut it again. Just even saying the words, it's like I can feel the pain from the tree in my body. So I can't do that again. But then the question was, and this is the beauty of ego, right? Because the ego says, nope, can't have this like pushing over the sidewalk and making everyone walk like, you know, like, ooh, I'm picking, you know, can't have that. This isn't working. So then the question is, but what will work? And my go-to was just cut it, right? In the past, I had to do that because it was a mess. And then I was like, I can't do that. And as soon as I said I can't do that, then it opened me up to what else is possible, right? Because that one, say we have A through G solution, and we always would just go to A, right? So A, the fact that we stopped at A kept us from seeing B, C, D, E, blah, blah, right? It kept us from seeing those other ones. But when I say, you know what, A is off the table now, all of a sudden I can see B, C, D, E. And I was laying in bed where I do all my great stuff. And it just dawned on me because, you know, I accrue information all the time. And it dawned on me, you can wire a tree. Now, I've never wired a tree in my entire life. I don't know anyone who has wired a tree. But it dawned on me. And so I got up my phone and I went on Amazon, my greatest like surfy area ever, you know, because it's like instant. And I looked up tree wire or tree whatever wire, and there it was. And I found a wire that was more expensive than the others, but it had a rubber casing on it that felt really gentle to me. Because I tell you, I'm really feeling this tree right now. Like I can feel the tree. So I was like, that's perfect, you know? And this is how the solutions come. It's like, you don't have to bulldoze through life. You can say, I really don't like the color of my living room. You don't have to like bemoan it or suffer through it. You can just say, I don't like that this tree is going across it, but I love my tree, but I don't love this. So what would make this possible? You know, how can this be addressed? And again, as with all tapping into knowledge, tapping into infinite knowledge, it's available to every one of us, but the question has to be clear. It has to be clear. And you have to walk through, like I said, those old things that would stop you, like, the trash isn't dumped, let me yell at someone. Well, what if yelling at someone was off the table? Then what would you do? Like, what's the next options?
It's very psychotic. Asking questions, just constantly questioning everything.
Yes. Yes. And
So
that,
think differently.
and we've been taught, think about going back to school. Think of our children in school. They're not allowed to ask questions. We've been trained out of it. But the kids who homeschool, the kids who went to Montessori or whatever the other schools are, they were allowed to ask questions and they thrived and they went to college and the professors could recognize these kids because they were lovers of intellect. They were lovers of knowledge and they wanted it. You know, so we're coming back to that full circle. You have permission to ask questions. You know, because it's through those questions that you are going to come into a relationship with Source. It's like fun. Okay, I was not watching the time, and I suddenly feel like, oh, what time is it? Is it Oracle time? Oh, it's perfect. See, look at that perfection. So I was telling, we had new people last week. Marie was here, and it was fun because I was like, okay, so. Sometimes people would come and I would tell them the whole layout of the program, but these two people, for some reason, it was so much fun to say. And the next secret, you know, sauce in my recipe is. So we were like, and now the next secret, you know, to this, I don't know. I think I was like totally doing mystery school. It was like the next secret thing. So let me get the cards. Does anyone have a request for cards?
Angels?
Angels.
Do you even have an angel there?
Of course.
Somewhere in there.
I do. It's right here. You know what? We're going to do that. And this one doesn't really have words, foundation geometry, just to add a little flair to it.
Michael.
Michael.
All right, so
No, my old gentleman, I took him
Can
for
you
a
pass
walk.
those
He
out?
sees things when he's around me.
oh,
Blind.
he's still doing that, huh?
He was seeing people for a while, but now the last time we went for a walk, he stopped and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "I'm seeing geometric things in front of me." He says, "And they're complex." He goes, "I'm only seeing these things when you're with me." Because he's completely blind, he can't see anything.
Wow, that must be so much fun for him.
So I'm like, okay. I said, "I'll throw some more at you." Because for a while he was seeing people. He'd be walking and the king would go like this. He was knocking people out of the way.
Out of the way. He knew they were really
I know exactly.
feeling really
Over here
comfortable
somewhere.
swinging at them.
I think it's this one.
Alrighty.
Mother of
That
pearl.
would be really cool.
What did
for
you get?
him.
Thank you.
What color? Oh, no, you are.
I'm not just not
I didn't look at
surprised.
mine
That's
yet.
all.
Oh, okay.
Surprised at all.
I thought you said mother of pearl. I was like, that's.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, you know, when you're just like, yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
Stop tiddling the cards.
I'm a toucher. Hello.
Absolutely. Help yourself.
I'm
Here,
not
pull your
looking
card real
until
quick
we
and
do
then
it.
I'll go. All right.
I'm not gonna look until.
You guys don't.
I'm not looking
Do
yet.
do 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 do.
Oh, look at that! Amazing!
Of course it did.
Oh my God, this is so
I didn't look
beautiful. You know, I always would get the ones that were like chakra ones, and they feel kind of
Right.
boring.
Oh, that's
Pretty.
Ooh,
I know,
that's
that's a
pretty.
nice one.
That's I didn't look at my
Word.
All right. I'm going to run to the bathroom next to, I'm going to actually stop this.